In this video, I'm going to go over the step-by-step process that I use to achieve this haircut. Let's get right into the video. So, as always, you want to start with fully saturating the hair. And I already sectioned the hair. Just make sure you section from the crown to the recession points on both sides. And fully saturate the hair. And then we're going to get our first cut right here. So, for scissor cuts, you want to set 2 points of reference for yourself. One being this bottom guide, and then we're also going to set a top guide as well. So here I'm just pretty much kind of following the shape of his head as I'm cutting. So I'm not over directing, creating a square shape. I'm just following the roundness of his head and pretty much cutting everything about the same length down here. So as you see, as I get to the round of his head, I'm following that. And once we do that, then right now I'm looking for where the widest point of his head is. So I could even use the comb to find where it's going to be square. And then I'm going to comb down to that point, and I'm going to pull out, and that's where I'm going to create my top section, or my top guide. So boom. We're going to get that cut, and same thing, following the round of his head. And since we are going to be doing a taper on the sides, I'm just going to slightly bring it a little closer to the head, making the foundation, what we call this point, a little shorter as we get towards the front. So there. So setting this foundation is very important because this is going to act as a guide for both the top of the hair and the sides of the hair. So this is going to be the top guide of the sides and the bottom guide for whenever we cut the top of the hair. The foundation acts as our horizontal shape for the haircut. So you want to make this as precise as possible because every cut you do is going to be using this as a guide. So if you look at the head from let's say a bird's eye point of view, our shape is following pretty much the round of the head, and as we get towards this temple area here, we're just slightly bringing it in a little closer. So here, just double checking our guide and making sure everything is clean and even. And on both sides, you can pull the hairs out like this and just kind of see if they kind of both match. And another way you can check this is by using your comb, seeing where that hair is, and then going to the other side and seeing if the hair matches that same point. And if not, then you can go back over it and cut it again, making sure our foundation is clean, precise, and even. So now that we have both our bottom guide and our top guides cut, now we can go ahead and just pretty much just connect those 2 points. Super easy. So you want to take combs with sections. And so here I'm just taking vertical sections. Just pulling that out right from the head. And you'll see our top guide right there. Basically, you're just going to be connecting point to point. And we're just going to do this on the whole side of the haircut. And once you're done connecting point to point, all you have to do is comb that section out the way and grab a new section. Combs with section, vertical, pull it out, and just connect point to point. Using this system is super easy because you don't have to worry about a traveling guide or over directing. All you have to do is create 2 points of reference, which in this case is our bottom guide, our top guide, and then pretty much just connecting point to point. As easy as that. One thing that's helped me as I'm connecting both points and I don't know, let's say, how to angle my fingers or where to pull the hair to make my cut, An easy way is by just using your comb. You're going to use your comb, pull out the hair, and you're going to see both points, your top guide and your bottom guide. And wherever that comb is angled, you'll see it, and you just basically replace the comb with your fingers. Then you can make your cut, and boom, you can move on to the next section and not have to worry about that anymore and continue with the haircut. What's so great about using the system is that whenever we're creating our top guide and our bottom guide, we're not only working on our horizontal shape of the haircut, we're also at the same time cutting in our vertical shape. So fundamentally, whenever we're taking these vertical sections, it's either going to be longer on the top and shorter on the bottom, shorter on the top or longer on the bottom, or even. And understanding that difference is going to help you whenever you're pulling these sections out to know, okay, I need my comb to be either angled with the top of the comb, let's say, closer to the head and the bottom of the comb farther away from the head, or with the top being closer to me and the bottom being closer to the head, or if I'm just pulling the comb straight out from the head parallel to the wall. So here, as I get on the side of the hair, I'm taking diagonal back sections instead of vertical sections, just because this is kind of how the flow of the hair is going to go, so I like to cut it in that same direction. But again, my guide is going to be at the top, and I'm just going to follow that towards the bottom. So boom, just take your section there, and then right there you'll see the top guide. And as my cuts get closer to the back, it's going to seamlessly transition into the hair that I already cut in the back with the vertical sections. And once we do this, then we could do the exact same thing just to the other side of the head. So here we're going to go right where we started, taking a combs width section right in the middle of the head. And once we have that, I'm going to pull that section right out and just connect point to point. And once you're done with that section, you can comb it out the way and get your new section. So boom, just right next to it, making sure our sections are nice and clean. You're going to pull that out and just cut point to point, our top guide to our bottom guide. If you're liking the video so far and you've learned something, go ahead and smash that like button. It helps out a ton. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe as well. I'm going to be posting these haircut tutorials at least once a week, and even more if I can. A lot of barbers don't really know how to do scissor cuts, but once you kind of learn the system and you understand the hair and what it wants to do, it's actually very easy once you kind of get that down. And it's actually faster than doing fades and a lot easier. And so here, just resaturating the hair. Whenever you are doing scissor cuts, just make sure that the hair is fully saturated. It just makes getting your sections way easier and cutting way easier as well. So now we can start taking our diagonal back sections on the sides. And here, once again, we'll have our top guide right there at the top. And we're just going to follow that straight back, just seamlessly connecting the sides of the hair into the back of the hair. So as you can see here, as I get towards the end of my section here, right there you'll see the point that I don't have to cut. And then we'll take our next section right there and just do the exact same thing, connecting point to point. No need to use a traveling guide or over direct the hair. Just simply following point to point, making haircutting super easy. And as we get towards the back of the hair here, the hair that we have to cut is just going to get shorter and shorter because we already cut these sections. And once we're finished with that, then we could go ahead and make sure everything is even. We could do that by just pulling the hair out from its points and just seeing if any hair or any pieces are longer than they should be, and just resectioning right in those areas and just making sure that everything is cut even, precise, and clean, and there's no hairs that we might have missed. So just like right there, just a little bit of hair we missed. But we know exactly where to find that and how to section that out so that we can make everything even and look nice. So once everything is looking nice, then you could even go ahead and also take horizontal sections just like this, and just make sure that the horizontal shape is nice. And if you see any bits that are just sticking out, then you could go ahead and cut that. So like here, let's see, boom, just making sure everything's even there. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole side of the haircut done. And now we can just start working on the top, just making sure we fully saturate. Then we're going to take a section just right down the middle of the head, following the hair's natural growth pattern. And then now we can start connecting the top into the sides using our foundation as a guide for the top. So now all we have to do to connect the top to the sides is take our top, bring it down to the guide, and cut it. And depending on how high or low we bring that section is going to determine how heavy or how soft that sits on the sides. So there you can see as I lifted the hair, you'll see the guide underneath, and that's our foundation. Boom, we're going to go ahead and cut that. But so here as we get in front of the ear, I'm going to change the angle of my fingers so that it's a little longer in the front. And I also change my elevation because I want this hair to sit a little heavier so that there's enough weight for it to flow back. So here I'm just keeping my elevation right in the middle, connecting the top into our foundation, and following that guide right until I get towards the ear, and then I'll change my angle depending on the style, which in this case we're keeping the bangs a little longer, so I'm going to angle out so that I can keep those bangs longer, just like that, and also keeping my elevation lower so that it can be heavy enough for the hair to flow back on its own. And if you have trouble determining where you want your bangs to lay, just ask the client where he wants his bangs to be, and that's where you're going to cut it. That makes it just way easier. So here, just making sure both sides are the same, and if not, you can just go ahead and just make sure that they are. So there, you'll just pull it down just like that. So here, you don't have to do this, but I'm just doing it to show you. So I'm sectioning out the back of the crown because we already cut this whenever we were connecting the top into the sides. So now we can take horizontal sections right here through the middle, and then you're going to see short bit, a long bit in the middle, and you're just going to go ahead and cut that long piece off right there. And just going to do that section by section, combs with sections until you get to the front. So you see it right there, short bit, long bit in the middle. And as we get to our section right in the front, I'm not going to pull that section straight up from its natural line. I'm actually going to kind of over direct it towards the back just a little bit, just to keep that heaviness that we cut in whenever we're cutting the sides at the top. So we'll say what's up to Johnny. And then we're just making sure that our shape is good here on the top. And then that's pretty much the haircut right there. And then we can go ahead and just blow dry it. And then we can do our tapers. So here I'm just going to add a little bit of sea salt spray and let it air dry as I do the tapers. Just scrunch that in. And then I'll just blow dry that a tad bit right in the taper area, because you don't want to have to fade wet hair. So just going to get the flow going, just blow drying everything back, working on the flow that we want with the haircut. And then we can get right into our tapers. We're going to start with our foreguard, fully open. But first I'm just going to section the top out, just so I don't have to worry about it being in the way. And then I'll start clearing this bulk here. And just as we get towards that bulk, just kind of coming right off the head and just fading right into that. And then we'll go close right underneath that. And then we could put our bald line in for our taper. We're just going to clean the bulk. And then we'll go in with our no guard open. And go up just about a finger's width length. And then right after that, we can go with our 1.5 guard, fully open. Same thing right above that. And then we can go in closed halfway up that section. And once we have that, then we can go in with our 3 guard, fully open, and fade that right into our 4 closed. And then close it. And then we could go ahead right back into our 1.5 guard, fully open, and fade that right into the 3. Just closing our lever little by little until that line is out. And then right into our half guard. We'll do this halfway to get rid of that line right there. We'll tap the line. Anything under that will come out with our half guard closed. And then we go ahead and open. And then start fading that line out. Start detailing, working shade over length. Once we have our lengths established. And just focusing on the fade and taking that line out. Working little by little, section by section, taking out any dark spots. And once we do that, we go ahead with our shaver. And we're going to bring that just right up to our bald line. And then we'll go in with our no guard closed. Just go ahead and tap that line. And then we'll go in halfway. And anything under that halfway point should come out with our clipper closed just one more notch. And then we'll go ahead and open our clipper. And then we'll start fading down little by little, closing our lever little by little. Just getting rid of any dark spots and just detailing the fade. So now we're just going to do the exact same thing to the other side. We got our foreguard open, just blending that right into the bulk. And then right after we do that, we'll go ahead and go in with that closed right underneath there. And then we'll go ahead and punch in our bald line. And once we do that, we can go in with our no guard open, about a finger's width length. Right after that, we'll go in with our 1.5 open. Halfway up that section, we'll go closed. And then we could put in our 3 guard, fully open, blend that right into our 4 closed, and then we'll go closed into that section. And once we have our guidelines in, we could start our fading down process. Here, I skipped the 1.5. Looks like I went with the half guard. We'll go halfway. Go ahead and tap that line. And then we'll close it, fully open. And then we'll work little by little, closing the lever little by little until any dark spots are out. We'll go to our shaver. And just bringing that shaver right up to that line, not quite, just leaving a little bit of stubble underneath, so that as we go in with our no guard closed, it'll fade right in. We'll go halfway, close it 1 notch, fully open, and then we'll work our lever little by little, close it little by little until any of the dark spots are fully out. And that is our whole fading process. And then we could go ahead and do our lineups and then detail a little bit more after that. Here, we're just fading in the beard just slightly. So this is just going to be the same exact thing, reverse of what we did on the taper. Go in with our no guard open. Then we'll go ahead with our half guard closed, or half guard open, I mean. Let's do that same thing to the other side. Half guard open, closed, and then just fade that beard out. So here I noticed that the other side of the taper looked a little bit lighter than this side. So I'm just going back in and just spreading out that lightness. I don't know if I'm the only one, but this usually happens to me pretty much all the time. I feel like one side of the taper is always a little lower or higher than the other side of the taper. And then I just go ahead and start matching them both just so they look the same. So when fading and detailing especially, you want to focus on this thing. It's called shade over length. This basically means that instead of just focusing on the lengths of the hair, you're focusing on the shade of the hair and making sure that it actually looks faded. This means that even though I might have went with a 1.5 guard in one section, I might even have to take my half guard in that section just to take any dark spots out. A super way to do this is just to start with a higher guard, start with it open, and just go little by little, lower and lower until that dark spot is out. And you just do that with every single dark spot you see. So now we can start on our lineup. So I like to just use the corner of the blade here. Just creating a nice C-cup. Getting rid of any little hairs and just making that curve look nice and clean. And then once we do that, we'll go in right behind the ear and just making that look nice and clean as well. And I'm right here, I'm not cutting into the hair, long hair, I'm just slightly cleaning up any hairs that are hanging over. So same thing, we're going to do the other side, and you could use a mirror or look at the front of the hair just to see where you need to put the top of the C-cup. And then you'll just slowly go little by little and cutting that line up to get a nice C-cup. And whenever you're doing lineups, just make sure that you either have your knuckle or finger on the head to help you stabilize yourself and not just have the trimmer just floating in the air and hoping for the best. Now same thing, just going to clean that up, not cutting right into the hair, just making it look nice and clean, getting rid of any of the baby hairs. And then here, I'm just taking another section just to make sure that the sides are flowing nicely and connecting nicely into the back. So right there, you'll see the side taper flow right into the length into the back. And that's how you get a nice even transition. So now we can start our styling process. So we already put sea salt spray in the hair earlier, so now we're just getting that fully dry. So I like to use high speed and medium heat. And I'm just going to start scrunching the back of the hair. And here on the side, just having that kind of flow back into the scrunched hair in the back. And then in the front, just lightly blow drying that just a little up to give it a little bit of volume. And then just going to do that same thing to the other side. Just scrunching the back and having that flow into the sides. Say what's up to Eric while we're at it. And so for his hair, we don't really usually style it fully. He always puts a hat back on, so I just like to make sure that it's dry and fluffy enough so that it looks good with his hat on. But yeah, so that will do it. That's pretty much the whole haircut. Right here, I'm just cleaning up all the baby hairs and just rounding off the back. If you made it to the end of this tutorial, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and like it. If there's any specific haircut tutorials that you want to see, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try my best to get that out. Subscribe if you haven't already. New videos every week. And remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. Let's go!